Ladies, it's 12:01.
Yeah.
Are we ready, Allison?
Order, and I'll ask for the approval of the minutes from the March 10 meeting.
2020.
Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, 2020.
Second.
First and second, any additions, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the sales tax recapture report on page 3. And I guess Robin is going to lead us in that discussion.
Yep, this is just a report that we're giving to the committee. One of the things that we do is we track projects once they're exceeded, once they've been approved for their benefits, and then every year we give an annual report. We ask them to complete an annual report to us, and one of the things we look at is the dollar amount that they have spent on sales tax exemptions, and we have to make sure on behalf of the state that they have not exceeded what they were approved for. So these projects listed before you had exceeded the approved dollar amount in 2020. They have to repay New York State the dollar amount. All of them have since done that.
Good.
So the overage columns, what they paid back?
Correct.
Robin, how do they provide evidence to us that they repaid?
They send the check to us.
Okay,
And we
like a
have to-
copy of the check?
No, they send the
Oh,
actual
they send
check
it
to
to
us,
them,
and
we send
we
it
have to
to-
send it to New York State with a special form.
So that's just an information.
This is just an information only item. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Next item is the unpaid pilot payments report.
Yes.
Which is on page 4.
Yes, so the county treasury department issues all the pilot payment bills on behalf of the county. And then they're issued January 1st with a due date of February 10th, I believe, the 10th or the 15th. And then the treasury department works with us to let us know who has not made their payments. She sends invoices on a monthly basis, adding an interest payment. And then it got to June and we were like, okay, now COMIDA's gonna get involved, and we send a letter saying you owe this dollar amount. The list was longer, and a good chunk of them did pay by June 30th as we had requested. These are the last 2 projects that have not paid their 2021 pilot bill. So what we are recommending is that we would send a second demand letter saying they have 30 days to pay, and that failure to pay may result in penalty and or termination. We'd also like to work with the municipality, which in this case, both projects are in the city of Rochester, and make sure they're aware of what's going on.
So what's the sequence then? Do you meet with the city of Rochester first before we send the demand letters? Because letters out.
Send the demand letters, and we'll copy in the city as well, which we did on the other one as well.
Yeah. So we need a motion on that, granting staff the authority to send correspondence demanding payment of unpaid pilot payments. And so Troy makes the motion. Second by Lisa. Any additional comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're moving on to the incomplete annual report. I didn't even like
Yeah, and I haven't. I have an updated version since Monday.
Okay.
Oh, Robin, do you have a packet for Joe?
I'll go get an extra one here.
I did print an extra one. Did I not bring it down?
This is what we're on right now, so we can look at it. So this is the data. It's shorter.
No, it should be in my office on that folding table, I believe. It's an extra copy. I don't know why I didn't bring it down.
Okay, so we are on the incomplete annual reports, page 5, the new page 5.
Yeah, the new page 5.
that Robin just handed out. We want to review.
Yeah, so what our process is, January 1st, we send out a letter to all of our projects, all active projects, which is approximately, could be anywhere from what, 350 to over 400 at any time. And as telling them they are responsible for completing their required annual report, we give them until February 15th to complete it. These projects have not completed their annual report to date. Some of them have been, once they received our third, sometimes fourth request, finally responded saying, oh, we're working on it. So we've noted that. There are a bunch that we have not heard from at all. No response to any request that we have sent.
Is there a specific time lapse that we're trying to target? When we say we'll give them one more chance or opportunity, what's the ultimate, like 3 or 4 reminders, and how much time have we lost in that? I know we try to be helpful,
Yeah.
because the circumstances do change, so.
Typically, we provide, I would say, three requests. I mean, and Robin is in constant communication with these folks and trying to get them to do it and answer questions. So sometimes it is a lot of communication back and forth. The ultimate goal is to get people to complete your annual report.
At any time, like if they're doing it in
Yeah.
December, we'll
That's
take
great.
it.
We
We
don't
need you to
wanna-
complete something.
Take away benefits because
So on the column where the third request, or 3 have not had a third request?
so those are instances where we've not been able to find a local contact for those 2. We noted looking for a local contact. For the third project from the top where there's no third request, we're gonna go through the attorney. That was an instance where it's a restaurant on East Ave where the new Marriott is. And it's been closed as far as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Little City Grill is that.
There's a new restaurant going in there, but under new ownership.
So there was a lot of questions around what's going on with the restaurant and who to contact. So we're going to go with the initial contact and also with their attorney. So I also have a list of all the attorneys for the non-responsive companies. So I will also make an effort through them because that's usually a good way to get to people.
Is this a large, it seems like a longer than usual list of project owners who haven't completed
I think it's less. I
their
would say it's
annual
less.
report, it's less.
And
We've been way more diligent this year than we've ever been going into
I
this.
mean,
And
the,
say, like, when we
Pandemic didn't cause any,
the pandemic causing people not to respond.
Not this year.
Not this year, yeah. And when we completed the annual report, what do you think the number was? Like 50 that hadn't responded?
Yeah.
So in March, when
Yeah.
we were submitting the report to the state, we had more like 50
Yeah.
on this list.
okay, good job.
And I will just share as an aside that this year we changed it so it's an online portal now. And instead of people filling out pieces of paper and then sending emails, and my email would I would be all over with all these huge documents and stuff that we'd have to print out. Our online portal worked out wonderfully, and we got good comments on that from all the applicants.
So Rachel, let me ask you, so where it says company is currently completing,
Mm-hmm.
so they've contacted you and said, we're working on it.
Yeah.
And the other ones are just dark, they haven't responded at all.
Pretty much.
So we're going to next resorts with those folks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They have not received, what we're asking you to do is now we're gonna send them the, okay, on letterhead, this is serious now, we're gonna,
Right.
you're looking at a penalty or termination or something.
That's not right.
The team here deserves some credit for building that online system. Thank you. Ramping up,
Absolutely.
it's really get organized. So
It's great.
Very good.
Yeah, there's some big projects there.
So this conceivably would be a final letter to
Mhm.
these folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then the project would be subject to penalty and or termination.
And how does that work? So let's say 30 days goes by, we serve them, nothing happens.
Mhm.
Then how do we decide Who decides? Do we collectively decide?
We'll come back to the full board and let you know, these are the companies we still heard nothing from. And this is the remedy we're considering exercising, which is assessing a penalty, which I think would be the preference rather than termination of benefits.
So we'll get the committee members to sign off on the next steps. But we always then take that to the full board.
Mhm.
So the board has to sign off on whatever steps. Okay, so we, at this point, Robin, would you have anything else to say on that
Nope.
item? We need a motion granting the staff the authority to send correspondence demanding completion of the annual report. Is there a motion?
I'll make a
Moved by
motion.
Lisa,
I'll second.
seconded by Joe. Any additional changes? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Job compliance and recapture, which is on page 6. And Robin, you want to walk us through that?
So we're actually going to see if there's anyone from the public that wants to speak on job compliance, and all of these folks here are for the Delphi matter. And then because we'll be talking about the particular financial information of all these companies requesting job waivers, we'll do that in executive session.
All right, so are we saying, well, this is the public comment period?
Yes, for
Sorry,
job
I thought it was
compliance.
further down in the agenda, but it's not. Okay, all right, so
So yeah,
who would we like to listen to first? Is there a sequence?
there is not. Whoever is willing to speak first is welcome.
It's okay if I
to
start
do so.
off?
Absolutely.
So 5 minutes or less, I guess is the time that we've allotted.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andy Whitmore from the Rush Henrietta Central School District, here to talk about the Delphi pilot at the Delphi facility on 5500 West Henrietta Road. The school district was notified by the town or informed by the town in approximately November of 2020 that that building was in the process of being sold and would soon cease operations. We knew that Delphi was only in about year 12 of a 20-year pilot abatement. So if they had paid full taxes during those 12 years, they would have paid about $7.4 million. They actually only paid about 24% of that. And because they were terminating early, there is a recapture provision that COMIDA is able to enact if they desire. And so we're here to seek the board to enact that provision so the district can pursue recapture. And quite frankly, it's about $1.4 million of recapture. So between the recapture and the pilots that were paid, the total payments would still be less than half of what they would have paid if they were fully taxed. The school district will not benefit itself from the recapture, but we feel we have a fiduciary responsibilities to our taxpayers because every pilot is offset and charged back to the other taxpayers. So basically, under the tax cap, whenever there's a pilot which reduces the taxes that one entity pays, the other taxpayers have to make it up. The levy that the school district receives isn't impacted. But both the town and the school district think it's very important that when these significant investments are given to companies to create jobs and become long-term tax-paying entities, that if they don't fulfill that commitment, that they pay back some of the benefits that they receive because they did not fulfill their commitment. So I'm here on behalf of the school district to request enforcement of the contractual provision for the clawback. And here with me is Joe Shields, the attorney representing the district, and I'll turn it over to him.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. So Andy did a great job of sort of explaining the situation, and we submitted a letter to you, to Anna, on July 8th, which sort of summarizes our position and I think the committee has that. But real simple, the pilot agreement, which the school district was a party to, they actually signed off on the pilot agreement, was dated September 2007. Section 10 of that agreement says, in plain language, that upon the sale or closure of the facility, then the agency, you have the right to enact the recapture provision. That's consistent with what the New York State Comptroller has recommended that IDAs do, is insert these recapture provisions. As Andy said, you know, they would have paid about $7.5 million. They didn't pay anywhere near that. Under your schedule in your section 10, it's beyond year 6, so you could enforce 25% of the recapture, and that's what we're asking the committee to recommend. We're not asking you to do the enforcement and to spend the legal fees. We're prepared to do that. But under the agreement, absent your enforcement of this, it's our position the taxpayers of Monroe County will lose out, because the benefit of the bargain of this agreement, it was supposed to be a 20-year agreement that was here, won't have been achieved. And, you know, I read the submission from the other side. It indicates that on the application, it says that the agreement was going to end in 2019, but that's prior. The application is submitted prior to the pilot agreement. The parties signed an agreement that's a 20-year pilot agreement, if you look at the schedule. So that supersedes it. Also, there's questions about notification to COMIDA in the summer. I'd remind everybody, last summer we were in the middle of COVID. This is the first time I think you folks have been together. You know, people have not had the opportunity. The courts had tolling on statute of limitations. The school didn't get notified, even though they had signed the pilot agreement. So if I was seeking to terminate a pilot agreement, I'd notify everybody who had signed it, we're terminating the agreement. That didn't happen. And this is the first that this board is considering this question. So again, I'd answer any questions, and thank you for listening to us. If not, appreciate it.
Thank you. We have other speakers.
You do.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rob Galbraith. I'm counsel for Delphi. And I think this has been mischaracterized a little bit. Delphi came to Rochester, originally had a pilot, lease. It started in 1985. In 2005, so there was an original lease and an original pilot in 1985. They built the plant out on 5500 Henrietta Road. It was a very successful plant. In 2005, they went into bankruptcy. The consideration was at that time, did they move the plant or not move the plant, or did they close the plant down? The pilot agreement, the first pilot agreement was gone. They, in the application, was asked to build a new fuel injector line and fuel injector facility to study fuel injection and a new plant, which they did. And they built it, and the pilot agreement was signed. Now, contrary to what everybody's asserting.
That was 2007.
2007, that's correct. Contrary to what everybody's asserting, there is no term in the pilot agreement. The pilot agreement just has in the actual pilot agreement itself, there's no term in the pilot agreement. It has a recapture up to 20 years, and then it says 21 years on. So there is no term there. With respect to the term, it wasn't the application that had that. It was the tax document filed by the IDA at the time the pilot was filed, a copy of which is contained in your thing, and the memorandum that was sent with the tax file documents to all the parties. That included the town, the school district, the county, and the IDA. That information was sent out, the affidavits of mailing to go with that it was sent and delivered. So the proposed term of this was 2019. So the question really is, did the town, did Delphi fulfill its obligations? They built the plant. They employed a number of people. As of June of 2020, they had the current employment was over. They have I think over 180 people employed, around 180 people. I can't read my notes here. So we had a 35-year relationship. Fuel injection systems are no longer viable. We're moving to electric cars. They had to make a determination on what they're going to do. In 2019, that announcement was made. And as was said by my learned colleague, Joe, the IDA is the person who is the contract is between Delphi and the IDA. The pilot agreement is going to do that. While the school district signed the agreement, they have no authority, they have no relationship, there are no notification requirements, there is nothing that is involved there. There was, in the newspaper in 2019, the plant was announced it was going to be shut down. I know, and if I have to do a FOIL request, I know that there was numerous conversations during the years of 2019 and 2020 with potential developers of that property, including the ultimate two buyers, Rochester Regional Health and FSI Industries, or FSI. So there is no, the lack of notice, right? And the thing is, it's not just notice, but it's ascertaining notice, that when they could have ascertained it. I know personally that I contacted the IDA in 2019 regarding this issue, and there was numerous discussions over that time period. So, we're looking at this, and I look at this as what's the mission of the IDA? The mission of the IDA is to bring in a business, have them develop a project, take that project, put in employment, and help the community. Delphi in 2005 was in bankruptcy. They emerged in 2009. They came in, they built a plant, they continued a plant. They added a new fuel line system there. They employed hundreds of people for 13 years. I mean, I would look at this as a success, not as that we're running away from the project. Delphi believes they've been a good community citizen. I mean, they believe that they're quite honestly, they're flabbergasted that this is even being raised. What's even more amazing is that it's not 1.4 million. That's what the school district says they're owed is 1.4 million. The total amount is $2.5 million. The building sold, the building is assessed at currently $8 million. They want over 30% of the value of the building to be paid. And it's up to 25%. It's not 25%. I mean, this project has been in place. My understanding is, looking at the records that I could find, that this agency, when they look at a project where somebody's fulfilled a project for 13 or 14 years, does not go back and have a recapture. Now you've employed hundreds of people, and you have new projects come in. There's already permits that have been granted for the development of portions of that, and Rochester Regional Health is going to put in a regional health facility into that location. You're talking about significant jobs. The fact that the school district didn't know that this was happening, that's unfortunate, but that's not our responsibility as a company here. So that's where it is. So, we believe that the IDA, in not asking for recapture when they transferred the property to us, was the correct answer. I mean, that was an administrative action whereby the property was transferred to us. We had the right under the lease to ask that the property be transferred back. There is no discretion at the part of the agency decision that transfer or not transfer the property. It has to be transferred back to us. We terminate the lease, the property gets transferred back. At the time the property gets transferred back, we're advised of any fees that we owe. We pay any fees that are due. This is not a discretionary issue that about the transfer back to us. And the transfer back, as a matter of law, terminated the pilot agreement as of that date. And one of the things that was not skipped over was, so if it terminates as of that date, the pilot agreement says that you have 90 days, the IDA has 90 days to advise the company of whether they shall advise within that time period if there's going to be a recapture. There was no recapture. After the transfer, we entered into the contract to sell the property. The company relied upon the fact that there was going to be no recapture. So we've relied on the decision, we've relied on the fact that there wasn't a recapture. We don't believe a recapture should be in place. And then the question comes, and as Mr. Shields said, there'll be litigation with respect to this, if this goes forward. This is too big a number to be left on the wayside. So, the decision will be, the board, if you make the recommendation, we would hope that you would not for recapture, because we believe it's not appropriate in the first instance. And it's quite honestly, it's almost a year since the transfer occurred. The transfer documents were signed July 24th, delivered August 10th. Delivery constitutes transfer or sale as a matter of law. So the sale occurred on August 10th of last year from the IDA back to Delphi. It's been almost a year since then, and we're looking at this issue. And there's, as I said, a 90-day window. Quite honestly, the fact that could have been ascertained significantly prior to that, due to the fact that there was numerous conversations between both the potential purchasers and the town, and the tax assessor. I believe there was also discussions between my office and the IDA office, in particular, Ms. Marinello. And there was a lot of discussion. This is not like something we've tried to hide from. We're not trying to hide from it. We believe we've been good corporate citizens. We believe we've done what was necessary. And we're not trying to take anything away from anyone, but we believe that we've done the job that we were supposed to do. And we also believe, quite honestly, that at this point, this is too late to seek recapture.
Was the school district notified a year ago?
No. But the school district is not a party to the agreement. The school district is a signer to the agreement, but they are not, with respect, they are a party to the agreement, but they do not, that it is not within their discretion, and they are not who you deal with. Specifically, the agreement says, this agreement is made binding between the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency and Delphi. It then cites the town of Henrietta, Rush Henry School, County of Monroe. Now, therefore, in consideration of the agency providing the facility, if you go into this in Article 10, it says, notwithstanding anything contained here and upon the occurrence of the sale, etc., as quoted before, any such recapture is the sole and exclusive discretion of the agency. The agency shall notify the company. It specifically says it's within your discretion. I mean, it is not, and the agreement is, the agency is leasing the facility to the company pursuant to the terms. The agency and the company can necessarily enter into an agreement making for provision of taxes. So it is, I mean, the discretion is within it. I mean, it was not, I mean, at this point, if we'd done it, if we'd known, probably would have been different. It was, I mean, this was a matter of public record. I mean, there was news articles published in 2019. I think we provided a copy of that for you also.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have a question. So let's back up here to Delphi. You said the fuel rail.
Yep.
And electric cars, but personally knowing that fuel rail is building for 20-year-old cars, what's Delphi's plan with the fuel rail? Is it to stay here? Are they going to continue, or you're saying Delphi is leaving, or I don't know?
Delphi has sold the plant, and they have left Rochester.
Well,
So I have a question. They sold the facility for $10 million?
They sold the facility for $10 million, but still the facility consisted of two parcels. One parcel is approximately 30 acres, and the other parcel, I believe, is approximately 70 acres.
They sold the whole thing for 10.
The whole thing for 10. The 1.2 million is not, the 30-acre parcel is not subject to recapture. The large parcel is subject to recapture should the agency decide that was what was necessary. And that parcel was just recently reassessed at $8 million. Any questions?
Could I just make one
Yes.
additional thing? Just the agreement itself, the plain language of the contract says, if the facility is sold or closed during the term, the agreement does have a payment provision which says that their payment is not the full tax until year 21. So it was a 20-year agreement, and they left and they terminated in the middle of it. And the last point is with respect to the notice. The school, the town, and the county were all parties to the agreement. If you're going to terminate an agreement, typically you notify all of the parties. Clearly, the agreement says that you're the agency that has the power to enforce the recapture. We don't dispute that. That's why we're here asking you to do that. But there was never any communication to the school until November of 2020. And as soon as the school heard about it, I wrote to Rachel, and Rachel immediately did the right thing and notified the council for the IDA, or for the company Delphi, that we wanted the recapture. So within 14 days of us learning about this, as soon as the school knew about it, we said, we want the recapture provision. And the town supervisor is also seeking to enforce the recapture provision. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak on the Delphi recapture matter?
so if it is up to 25%, what would you be satisfied with if it was up to 25%? But my math at 1.4 is what, 350,000?
No, so the 1.4 is 25%
Is
of
the
the amount.
25%?
Yeah, so they were
But it's up
abated.
to, so what would satisfy you?
I would turn to Mr.
Yeah, I mean, to try and resolve this matter amicably, we had proposed a $900,000 settlement if it avoids all the litigation. Clearly, if it goes to litigation, we would seek the full amount, but if we were able to avoid litigation.
That's up to us to decide. So we can work that number and then that would be challenged if in fact it's not satisfied.
If I could, the $1.4 million is what is owed to the school district under the full recap. The total amount owed to all three parties is $2.5 million. So the issue here is it's $2.5 million. It's a significant sum of money. And again, the notice was, parties were notified. We didn't terminate the pilot agreement. We terminated the whole relationship. We terminated the lease, which we had the exclusive right to do. We had under the lease agreement, we had the right to terminate the lease. And by terminating the lease, the property is transferred back. And as a matter of law, the pilot agreement is terminated. And again, we were a good corporate, Delphi was a great corporate citizen for 35 years. I'll put it this, I look at it this way. In 2007, when they're negotiating the pilot agreement, and you said to them, and they said, geez, we're gonna go potentially to 2019, because that's the document that was filed with the tax department, right? That's the document that was filed with the town, it was the assessment document. And by the way, if you leave after 2019, if you leave in 2020, we're gonna hit you with a $2.5 million settlement or assessment. I have to say that most companies, in fact, I think every company that comes into Rochester, New York, is not going to be looking to get whacked with a $2.5 million assessment as they walk out the door and play with hundreds of people in this community.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session under section 105F of the Public Officers Law to discuss financial matters or of a particular corporation. Moved by Joe. Is there a second? Thanks, Troy. Any other comments or changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are leaving?
Yes.
Okay.